So, at the beginning of the film, we see a meteoroid falling into a mountainous forest. The scene then cuts to a deer in the forest, one of its antlers now severely injured. The deer is still in shock at what happened when we see a tentacle extending towards it from behind. Several smaller tentacles on top of that tentacle attack and kill the deer. And here, we are finally revealed that an alien had landed with the meteoroid that fell. The scene then cuts to show a couple, Ruth and Harry, heading towards the same mountainous forest. Along the way, they stop for lunch and notice the child waiter looking quite nervous. He asks them, "Did you guys see a meteoroid fall?" The two laugh at his statement, as he seems unconvinced. When did meteoroids ever fall in the world? They continue their journey, and while walking through the forest, Ruth often feels as if someone is following her. She looks back several times, but no one is there. But Ruth still suspects someone is watching her. Evening falls as they continue their journey. They cook dinner again, set up their tents, and go to sleep. In the middle of the night, Ruth wakes up again, hearing a strange noise. She looks out and sees a deer standing at the edge of the forest, staring at her. This deer, too, was missing one horn. It was the same deer we saw at the beginning of the movie. He was looking at Ruth in such a strange way that even Ruth was uneasy. Then suddenly, someone comes from behind and puts a hand on her shoulder. She was terrified, but it was Harry. She relaxes a little after seeing Harry, and when she looks back at the forest and tries to tell him about the deer has already left. It would be better to say he disappeared. A frightened Ruth tries to explain to Harry that she woke up to a noise and saw a strange deer with a broken antler staring at her from the forest, and now it's gone. Harry doesn't believe her. He puts her back to sleep, and just like that, morning comes. They resume their journey, and Harry takes Ruth to a special place in the forest. It was a beautiful place by the sea, and there Harry proposed. Ruth should have been happy, but here she suffers a panic attack. She can't control herself. Her world turns upside down. Harry consoles her, and she tries to regain her composure by taking pills. The situation between them becomes quite awkward, and they return to the forest and set up camp. Harry decides to leave the next morning. They were silent for a long time. But then suddenly Ruth spoke up, asking, "Why did you do this, Harry? Why did you need to propose to me?" Hearing this, Harry became enraged, as they had been together for 8 years. Ruth should have been happy, but instead, she was furious with him. Things escalated to the point where Harry went into his tent to break up the fight, leaving Ruth sitting there, feeling like someone was watching her again. Ruth ignored everything and went to sleep. When she woke up in the morning, she found Harry missing. He had left a note saying, "I'm going for a walk and will be back soon." Once away, Ruth found her chance. She tried to call her doctor, but the call didn't go through due to a lack of signal. While searching for a signal, she found the same dead deer that had appeared repeatedly in the movie. It was strange. After its death, the deer was completely covered in a black liquid, and its mouth was torn as if someone had cut it in two with a knife. Seeing this, Ruth panics. She begins to have another panic attack, and Harry comes to her rescue. Ruth explains, "This is the same deer that was staring at me." Harry comforts her and says, "Ruth, it's not like that. There are many deer in this forest, and looking at its corpse, it looks like it's been dead for several months. It must have died of some disease, which is why there's this black liquid on it." They return to their camp and begin gathering more information from forest-related books. Harry confirms that the deer definitely died of some disease. He also reassures her that there's no danger here, and that he won't let anything happen to her. Harry begins cooking for Ruth, and Ruth goes for a walk. While walking, she comes across a cave. Approaching the cave, she feels a strange sense of urging her to enter. She goes inside and sees a glowing blue liquid. Before Ruth can touch the liquid, someone arrives, unseen. Ruth screams loudly upon seeing them, and the scene shifts. Meanwhile, we see Harry, who has been waiting for Ruth for a long time. When Ruth doesn't return after hours, he goes looking for her and finds her in the woods. Her behavior has become quite strange. Harry, unable to fully notice this, asks her to follow him. Ruth begins to obey him as if she were a robot. There was no expression on her face this time. When Harry woke again in the middle of the night, he saw that Ruth was gone. He was frightened. He took the light and went outside to look for Ruth, but suddenly Ruth came running after him. She was holding Harry's knife. Harry became alarmed and asked her, "What are you doing with this knife?" Ruth replied, "I heard animal noises in the forest. I thought an animal was about to attack us. That's why I took the knife and came to kill it." Harry looked around, but there was no animal. So he took his knife and brought Ruth back inside the camp. Harry fell asleep, but inside the camp, we saw that Ruth hadn't slept a wink the entire night. Morning came. Harry started cooking for Ruth again, and Ruth sat down on a chair. Harry tried to talk to her, but Ruth was completely silent. Harry finally fell silent, and after a long moment, Ruth broke the silence again. She said, "I'm sorry. I shouldn't have done what I did to you. I should have accepted your proposal. Let's go and propose to me again at the same spot we were at yesterday." Hearing this, Harry is delighted and takes her to the same spot. He proposes again in the same manner, and as soon as she puts on the ring, Ruth does something incredibly shocking. She pushes Harry off the cliff, and he falls off the cliff. He doesn't fall into the water, but lands on a rock underwater. It seems as if Harry is dead. Ruth then starts running away, and suddenly, she falls. Ruth sees another couple camping in the same forest, who sees her and asks, "What happened to you? Why were you running like that?" Ruth replies, "I don't remember anything." They suspect Ruth is in trouble. They decide to inform the police, but there are no signals in the forest. They take Ruth with them, deciding to leave for the city the next morning. They try repeatedly to ask Ruth, "What's wrong with you? Why are you silent? Why aren't you talking?" But Ruth remains silent, and suddenly, she pulls out her knife. They both panic. They think she wants to kill them. But this time, Ruth points ahead. We see Harry come, walking as if nothing had happened to him. Forget about death, there's not a single scratch on his body. When they finally spot Harry, Ruth runs away in fear. The boy who was helping Ruth tries to stop her, but Harry takes a knife from his finger and cuts his hand, then severely cuts him. The man's wife, frightened, also starts running after Ruth, and Harry, walking calmly, follows them. He was about to kill the man's wife. Ruth knew she could escape and save her. She rushed out to save her. But Harry didn't listen to her. Instead, he first slits her mouth in two with the knife in his hand and then kills her. After which, he points the same knife at Ruth and asks her, "How did you know my truth?" And here, the twist is revealed, the Harry standing in front of Ruth all this time was not actually human, but had become an alien. Ruth answers all these questions, both to the alien and to us. She explains, "When I was out for a walk, I saw a cave with a blue liquid inside. Inside that cave, I suddenly saw Harry's body. He was in the same state as the deer the day before, and at that very moment I realized that you must not be human, but some other entity who was first keeping an eye on me in the guise of a deer, and then, after killing Harry, you started keeping an eye on me." In fact, the alien here can take the form of anyone, including their memory and feelings. Now, Ruth, lost in thought, runs away. She doesn't know what to do. She started having panic attacks again, for which she even takes pills. Here, she revisits the same thoughts she had after learning the truth about the alien Harry. She was expressionless after coming back from the cave because she was so scared. That night, when she had a knife, she picked it up to kill Harry, but she couldn't. While she was in the tent with Harry all night, she didn't blink for a minute. She feared that whoever Harry was would harm her. She then hatched a plan to kill him the next morning. To accomplish this, she took him to a cliff under the pretense of proposing to him. She threw Harry off the cliff. Harry wasn't a human, he would have died if he were an alien. He was an alien, and he came back to life and stalked her. Here, we learn about the alien side of the story. These aliens visit every planet. They establish colonies on planets they find suitable for their inhabitants and settle there. This alien also came to Earth to see if the planet was safe for them. Upon arriving, it began to transform into the organisms on that planet and began learning about them. But one strange thing he experienced for the first time in his life was that on this planet, there was an emotion called love, something he had never experienced before because he had absorbed all of Harry's emotions. That's why he now loved Ruth. That's why he couldn't kill Ruth. Ruth even attacks him repeatedly to protect herself. But this alien doesn't say anything to him. He keeps healing himself again and again. He just wants Ruth to treat him with love this time so he can enjoy this feeling more fully. He coaxes Ruth away with his sweet words. He shows her his alien ship and says, "Come with me. In a short while, many more aliens like me will arrive here, and as soon as they arrive, they will kill all the humans in this world and take over. But I don't want you to die, so you will come with me to my planet." Ruth was fed up with his talk. She wasn't paying attention. Her attention was focused on the water, where a shark was. A plan came to her mind. So she quickly stabbed her knife into the alien's body and ran into the water. Blood oozed from the alien's body, and the shark, smelling the blood, immediately grabbed it. Ruth ran back into the jungle. She felt she had escaped. So, after a good distance into the jungle, she sat down near her camp to catch her breath. There, she ate a little food and bought a pill to stop her panic attacks. Meanwhile, we were shown that the alien wasn't dead. Instead, the alien had killed the shark and then, healing, or rather, reassembling, its mutilated body, moved towards Ruth. He wanted Ruth at all costs, but he didn't know that killing a human being couldn't be achieved. He thinks why not leave Harry's body and enter Ruth's. So he captures Oth, ties him up in a cocaine container, and attempts to kill him. He tries to take his form, to take his emotions and memories. We see that Ruth hasn't completely died yet, and the alien has completely transformed into Ruth. At this point, Ruth is having panic attacks, and the alien also feels the same panic attacks and becomes extremely nervous. But by this time, Ruth has run out of all her pills, and the alien, unable to take the pill, begins to go mad with anxiety. Seeing this, Ruth laughs and says, "Now it's a joke." Seeing him weakened, Ruth picks up a stone and hits him hard on the head, crushing his head and face, and immediately flees the forest. She left the forest in her car. But it was shown from the back that the alien had healed itself again, in the form of Ruth, and was now talking to Ruth through the car radio, and Ruth was even more frightened than before. She understood that these aliens would not stop pursuing her. In the movie's post-credits scene, we are shown that numerous alien ships are crashing in the same mountain forest. This means that, just as the alien had said, his entire colony had now arrived here and would soon kill the humans and take over the Earth. And with this horrific ending, the movie ends here.